do want to mention right up top the relationship with the UK, because it broke through early over here, and we go hard for rock music over here. You've had so
Mm.
many important live moments over the years, both with the band and on your own as well. Um, Tell me about those kind of first memories of those first trips to the UK specifically. What do you remember about those early UK shows and kind of finding your feet over here and with this audience?
I mean, the Milton Keynes show was our first show there, and it was like it's a little venue. I mean, it was smaller than any venues we were currently at the time we were playing in the U.S. And our manager had said, "Hey, I feel pretty strongly that you guys start to open up like you're touring in Europe and in places outside the US because if from the moment you start building it, it will grow. And most groups have like double the fan base. And if you're a US based artist, then your US fan base is twice as big as your international fan base, right? It's like for most bands, that was at the time the picture. And he said, I think like we should get started in areas outside the US right away. And um I think by the end of the cycle, we were 50-50 US to international. And then as the years went on, it was way more international fans than US fans. We were much stronger in other countries than we were in the US, if you can believe it. So yeah, thinking back to the beginning of that, like part of it is you're playing uh like a huge ballrooms or main stage, not headlining, but like main stage on festivals. And then you come over to England and we're playing clubs. And we had the experience level of playing hard for a lot of people. And so to come into these little places and do it, we felt like LeBron James in a high school pickup game. Like we were just fucking dunking on people. Right? That's how it felt. Like we knew we could come in and show them what the band was really about. And it luckily it translated really well.
I guess I'm curious from your perspective, what actually were the aims and the challenges really after the massive success of that debut? When you're just beginning to start work on this second record, were you thinking like, okay, we need to double down in this area, or was it just more of a natural thing of like, no, let's just do what feels right? What was the kind of initial aims when you were putting it together?
Well, hybrid theory was an attempt to introduce ourselves. So make a bold statement about this is what the band is. But in the context of that, there was only so much we had time to say. Like if we had done too much, the record would have gotten convoluted and disjointed. So it was like, for example, it was like a conscious decision to lean into a more alternative rock kind of sound. Because the truth is, we could have, like, certain songs could have ended up being like a little more programmed or hip hop, or um, I should say, like, in terms of like aesthetic, like it could have been a little more electronic or it could have been a little more hip hop driven. And on Meteora, the goals then were, okay, that first record, I mean, we could never have imagined the success of Hybrid Theory. It was the number 1 record on the planet. You couldn't have gotten any bigger. So now the pressure is to prove that it was coming from us, like that we could do it again because it was our music. There was like rumors that it wasn't us making it. So we had to dispel that nonsense. And also do some of the things on the second record that we now had room to further the conversation and do. So we had songs like Breaking the Habit, Nobody's Listening, Session. Those songs were, you know, really like no heavy guitars, but like we pulled back on the heavy rock elements a lot. And then there were songs like Faint and Somewhere I Belong that they were led by more of a hip hop, like there are loops like the string loop and Faint and the percussion loops in the song were not rock elements that anybody was thinking to use. And so when we started, when, you know, I remembered like making some tracks with some of that type of thing and going like, yeah, I think this is like a core like pillar of this new album is to like kind of go more what you would like call like sample heavy or something. Like it's, you know, leaning on some things that aren't bass, drums, and guitar. And when I played them for the guys, those ideas, I was like, do you guys like this too? Because I think this is great. And they were just immediately, they're like, yes, like do that.
We got to mention Fort Minor here, because obviously, again, it almost feels like I do you a disservice by referring to it as a side project. It wasn't. It was something you were equally passionate about there, and my God, it was equally successful. Just did so incredibly well at the time. I guess my question then is really, what were the aims going into that you felt like? Was there anything you felt you couldn't do in the band that you then wanted to channel into Fort Minor, or was it just a completely different
Yeah, I
songwriting
felt
mindset
like
for
I
you?
couldn't do rap songs.
Right, fair.
I was very
Just simple as that.
straightforward. Like on the first two records, we were blending genres. And so I was like, well, I, I, I used to just make rap songs and I miss doing it. So I just started to make some for fun. And then the more I played them for people, the more they developed, and the more people were like, can we put this out? Like it's, you know, I really like this. And I felt strongly about the stuff. Like you know, the momentum towards putting it out was obvious. And I got I met a bunch of people and got a bunch of great features on there. Um, I put on Styles of Beyond, who they were like back when I was like first getting started, like making beats and rapping, like they were ahead of me in the neighborhood. Like I hadn't quite bought my gear yet, and uh Vin Scully in their group um already was making beats, and so he was like, oh yeah, you should buy this sampler, or you should try this, try this technique. And so we were just, like in any like group of kids, like sharing tips that we had heard. Um and they had put out a couple small projects before I had ever even like recorded anything serious. And so fast forward to later, I was like, part of me is just like, do these guys the honor of like being, they taught me some things. I kind of want to put them on. And I put them on the record. Um, and yeah, we had, I like all that, the effort with Fort Minor was just to explore that more purist kind of hip hop intuition, like the thing that I want. That's the thing I came from that I wanted to do. And after I after it did well, and once we got into the next Linkin Park album, the conversation became like, well, wait, number one, Minutes to Midnight needs to be, we didn't have a name for it at the time, but the next record, the third record, we want to like redefine the band, reconfigure like what is it the band sounds like, to knock it down to the foundation and build a new thing, and open ourselves up to the next 10 years of Linkin Park. Like what, let's get out of this new metal rap rock genre. Let's do a lot of different exploration in genres and sounds and things. And by the way, Mike, like rap is not off limits. Like if we want to make just a rap song, let's make a rap song. Like whatever, there's nothing we should say is like we can't do. If we try it and it sucks, then we can't do it, but we shouldn't not try it. And so, yeah, so that, I think Fort Minor was like a stepping stone to Minutes to Midnight, even though Minutes, just for me personally, not for everybody else maybe, but it definitely, for me, it opened my mind up to, the band doesn't have to be about one signature sound so much at all. Like we've got, our signature sound is broader than I thought it was.
Well, also it ties in nicely into where you ended up going when you did your first solo record, because I think I mentioned this to you before, but what was really striking about that to me is that, you know, you're making a solo record. You could have easily just gone, I am the only voice on this. This is all me. This is just going to be, but you immediately wanted it to be a collaborative project, it seems. Like you were bringing on friends, you were bringing on new talent that you admired there as
Mm.
well and giving them that opportunity. Was that something that you were kind of conscious of and was important to you when you were putting together that record as well?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of drivers besides the ones I already talked about. Like, there's also just like being, I was at that point very used to sharing the stage with other people and like sharing vocal responsibilities with Chester and um enjoying like working and making songs with other people in my band and with like other collaborators on the remix stuff on like Reanimation. So yeah, it was, but there was also another part of it that I was like, I was not super confident on my own yet. Like I was still learning to be um able to stand on a stage by myself and do anything. So I was hiding behind um I was putting other people on stage so that I had like so the fans had other things to look at. Don't
That's
just
a
look
fun
at
way of
me.
looking at it.
Look at
That's
these
a
other
fun way of
people
looking at
too, because if everybody's staring at me, I feel uncomfortable.
it felt like the live shows around that era were a real turning point for you, though, because it obviously it's going to be a bit of a learning curve because it's something you've never done before, right? But I remember we've talked before about
So
like,
when I was saying like I always looked for something to challenge myself with, that was one of the during the Fort Minor tour, I figured that out. And as we got past that, I said, "Oh, this is a thing to learn. Like it's a skill to learn to be able to just go up and play a song by myself. It's very naked. It's very stressful, but I can get good at this."
it must have been. I mean, tell me about finding your feet a little bit there because it must have been a real confidence builder. I mean, we could talk about. I mean, Reading and Leeds was a massive, massive moment on that album. I mean, of course it was. Seeing the reaction to your set there was just really, really incredible. But I remember, even it might have been the first show you did, but like you did that K Rock thing, and it was like in the stadium, and you're on that B stage. I remember, and you did like this solo set for the first time, and again, just seeing the warmth and the love for you, and it wasn't just for the songs that people knew. People wanted to see you succeed out there. That's gotta, when you're embarking on a solo project like that, having the audience really have your back like that, that's gotta be something that's going to push you forward.
Oh yeah, it's like it's that is like the wind in your sails. Like if you don't have that, then it's over.
Yeah.
The end. So for in terms of like going out there and trying these things, I kind of identify a little bit with like what comedians feel like when they talk about bombing versus succeeding. Like I heard somebody, I don't remember, I maybe it's a common thing they say, like when they don't laugh, when they don't like it, it's not that they thought the joke was bad, it's that they think you suck. That's how it feels. And man, that may not even be true, or it may be true. I don't know. But it feels that way. Like you can't sleep that night. Every singer has felt that feeling where you walk off and for the next 24 or 48 hours, you just feel like you are a shitty person that's worthless. And it can be all because of one song or like one slip up. So it's tough. Like that's the hardest part about it is like the management of your own emotions and like your own intentions. Like that's why over time I've one thing that you can do, that I do at least, to combat that is make sure that I keep my eyes on the priorities of things that I can control, that I can work on. If the goal is just numbers and metrics and statistics, number, streams and ticket sales, if that's the only goal, or if it's like how popular you can be in the zeitgeist, if that's the only goal, then your goal is actually out of your control. You can't do, you might say, oh, but then the thing I can do is make hits, like, but you could write the best song and it could be not received. Some of my favorite songs of all time are not popular songs. And I think they're the best songs ever. So to me, like that math doesn't add up of I'll just, if I write hits, then I'll be popular and I'll be happy. That you can tell how broken that frame of mind is. My goals are things like I want to get good at something. I want to get good at doing this on stage. I want to get good at this instrument. I want to get good at singing a song and playing piano at the same time. I want to get good at writing these types of lyrics. I've done it before on these songs. It's hard to do. Let's see if I can do it again. Like those types of goals are attainable because I can do it. I can look back at it and say, did I or did I not achieve that? And if not, am I willing to try again?